đại chúng, hôm nay là ngày 24 tháng 10, 2021. Chủ nhật này chúng ta có một cái sinh hoạt khá đặc biệt, đó là lễ giỗ Thầy Nhật Thanh. Đây là kỳ giỗ thứ 20, đếm vào 20 năm đi ngang qua. Nếu đời người còn sống thì 20 năm, đó là những chuỗi ngày rất dài, có nhiều việc đáng nói. Thế nhưng mà nếu mất rồi thì 20 năm, thưa các vị, nó chỉ còn lại một chút gì để nhớ thôi. Chút gì để nhớ về người đã ra đi thôi. Cũng may mắn là Thầy ra đi nhưng mà còn lại một chút gì để nhớ. Đó là cái cuốn Các Buổi Thời Gian. Cuốn này, tập thơ của Thầy. Không nhiều bài thơ lắm. Thế nhưng mà đây là những lời rất là chân thành từ trái tim của một người bình thường, có chút tâm hồn thi sĩ, cũng là một người đi vào con
on the spiritual path, a student and a disciple who had a very wholehearted interaction with his teachers as well as with friends and fellow monastics. We might be in a community, a monastery, or any group, but to be able to connect heart to heart, it's not necessarily automatic or not. So when we to read a poem, is to be able to see the heart and the mindset of and the virtues and the essence of a person. So even though there might be small booklets of poems and or even of writing, might be tiny or few pages, but it does speak up or embody the essence of a person, of the author or the artist. So it's because the poems, it's like a seal of their especially for someone who's spiritual, it's like the seal of their lifetime, of their experience, of their essence. In the world, we have many documents that they're considered classic. They transcend time and space. He's giving some examples. Words and thoughts that we have stay within us, but once it comes, once we verbalize it, or Dhamma talk, once it is released, or a phrase of a poem, etc., once it's when it's been verbalized, give birth to it, so someone else could a knowledge of it in one form or another, then we can no longer have much control of it because it has its own life once it's been out in the world, per se. So because it also embodies for spiritual poets, it also carries the energy of their experience. Things that we leave behind, that people remembers of us, is how our interactions with others, and if our interactions Bali as well as verbal speech. If they're wholesome, then people will remind kindly of us, remember kindly of us. But if it was unskillful and harsh, quote unquote, then people would also remember of us in a negative way. So things that we leave behind would stay around within for many centuries. But if for most of us, it probably stays within our own family and our ancestral line for maybe one generation. But if we have if we do anything that's like so elaborate, people might not remember as much. We might have a lot of riches, a lot of fame, and it may not hold much meaning or stays retained behind even just not even a decade or two, maybe. But if just one unfortunate, unskillful act or speech or of words, that will stay around for decades and maybe over a century. so, even though we might not know the people who have passed, but just interacting with their loved ones or the people who had interacted with them, we can tell how they lived, how that person lived. So, fortunately, even though his poems he have shared here and there with various of us, there were enough people who cared for him, care for him, so that they wanted to print and share further what his poems and the spirit of his experience. So I'd like to read his history of his life. I remember when it was the first print was a large print run, a relative large, and I thought it would stay on the shelf for a long time. I said so. Someone said there's still a lot on the shelf. When the brothers came over and there was no the books has already been purchased for a long time again. He was surprised. From my impression was first, if at least one or two publication would be 2 or 3 would be something people would remember, or maybe for Buddhist teachings, but poems, it's hard, not so popular or not so easily to read or and connect with. It's if you have the same frequency of thinking and affinity, and then you won't be able to appreciate poems as well much. And also each poem has a history as to how it came about, and also connection with the artist, the poet, that we will to be able to receive fully the essence of the poem. So I share with whoever this monk he's talking to. I don't worry. I think it's going to be. There's a lot of copies still on the shelf in the bookshop, but he didn't have any. There wasn't any left. So many years passed in the past. I also had a handful of copies myself, but through the years I've also gifted it to different people, so I still have one copy myself, or else I wouldn't have a copy either. And rereading the poems in here, just to have something to share with you, to waste your time for now. If I don't read these poems, I don't know what to share about Tayatang to you. Think about it. 20 years have passed. The pace of the world has pushed and pushed us to go forward, to didn't allow us to be able to think of the friends and family members, the loved ones who passed away. And you don't have to think far. Just think about our own life in the last 20 years. Many things we would not have remembered every single detail of a moment. And no matter how much we care for someone, we would have lost a lot of, like at least 50 or 60% of the moments that we've lived with them. So the time I've been in Deer Park, I have been here about the same time as the number of years that Yaktang has passed, so about 20 years. So in the first few years when he had passed, I would say, whenever I have a cup of tea, I would also share a cup of tea with him. I would pour him a cup of tea, and it's been a while since, and then all of a sudden I realized I haven't been pouring a cup of tea for Tayatang for a while. And it's and I how much we respect our teacher and our friends, our loved ones. We might the pace of time and would kind of push everything into with like being dusted over. The pace of life just that doesn't allow us to enjoy review of the past. So for us to look back at ourselves and looking back our own life and extracting a bit of experience from that a very poetic phrase is that our life has passed and it's very fortunate to have anything that would help us remember a bit of our life. This would hopefully reading a few extracts of a poem would help your current situations now, or just to enjoy his view and his interaction with people. So through the poem, hopefully you'll be able to sense. Well, with the people who have passed, you can sense from their way of life, through their actions and words. But for those who have passed, the publications, the poems, etc., can only speak a part of his essence. Even though we were pre-chummy for many decades, I sense I might, but to some sense of his true his as a good friend would know. But if we only interact like an acquaintance, share a few words here and there throughout the month or even a year, you won't be able to understand truly the inner true person of anyone. The he's using a current term that's in Vietnamese right now. I couldn't catch. Những sâu. So, so sitting like sitting like in a large like a large crowd, it's easy for us to be on stage and to present a certain image that might not be ourself, and for us to, and for you to, the audience is look at someone who is, on stage, would also perceive the person individually, and just from like an outer part of on the surface, and not necessarily the deeper layers of the essence of the person that we're even listening to a talk or read the book, etc. So when before we even became novices, I have known Thầy Yak Thanh in the teenage. I went through our novicate together, and we were. I guess it was during the wartime too. That they were kind of lost and didn't have directions even before they became bhikshus, fully ordained monks, and they left 70 in the 70s. They lost touch with each other, and like the end of the 70s and early 70s, they found each other connection again, and were in like solo retreat huts to deepen their practices. And then in the mid 80s, they both had to. They were like boat people, the refugees on the seas, to leave Vietnam, and met again in America somewhere after 20-30 years. So the first thing after meeting up with him after that span of separation, that many so even though he has experienced a lot of ups and downs, and he was still the same, the friend I knew, the fellow monk I knew, even though we've separated now more than 20-30 years. So I was already an abbot of a temple in Dalat, and at lunchtime, after lunchtime, I had my little novices and the young monastics in our temple so they can rest and nap, so that they needed the rest so they can then go to school in the afternoon. So it was I stayed up to did little errands, chores around, so that they can rest in the early afternoon, and then the way they can go to school and then also study in the evening. So all of a sudden, here comes Thầy Yak Thanh going through the gate. It was very quiet afternoon. He said, "When did you arrive from America now?" I said, "I just arrived." He just came up here by yourself? I rented. Do you think I would come here with a large group of people renting a car, with many people, like a grand entrance? It's many people who monks and nuns who have come to America. They would, when one could come back to Vietnam with a way, they would go they would come with a lot of lay disciples wearing, and just to show how much they were able to achieve in America. But here, he he's a true wanderer. He, many beautiful like scenic places he is aware of, or good tea. He is well aware of and an expert on. And here he is being in America for a few years, and he comes back. It's like there's no, and you can't tell that he came from having been in America at all. And there's no boasting of what he might have achieved or have as far as material riches in America. So he knows of many people from the high venerables here in America, as well as those in Vietnam. But here he is coming from America. He's no different than a simple monk from the rural farms in Vietnam, and with a very simple fabric rag on his shoulder. So he laughed at him, at our venerable here, saying, "You think I would come here with a large group of lay disciples and all these, boasting." So he was very humble in his speech as well, in his demeanor. I also remember, since I met him as when we were kids till he left, I haven't heard. He never taught me anything. He had like purposely, like as if he's reprimanding me or being like an elder brother to teach me something. Dear Sangha, I my own we're our age is not different, but thầy, I respect our thầy Giác Thanh as a teacher because he is very thorough in his studying. His knowledge is thorough. Even though we're of similar age, but he exposed and he actually researched a lot. He taught Kinh Kim Cang. Kim Cang is the Diamond Sutra, was being taught by a high venerable, and thầy Giác Thanh tried to even though he was busy with a lot of other chores, he went to that class every day as much as he could, and 3 years worth. At the Chân Không Monastery, they taught a whole set of very full and high of many sutras were taught. So he headed that way to study to be in that course. We were in our early 20s. They say like he took me with him in our early 20s. Thầy Thanh Tu, or the abbot of Chân Không Monastery, was also young. So the two of us, now can we be with this? Can we register for this meditation course? And he looked at us and he just smiled simply. The first course I'm open is only 10 people. He's listening of people who have learned or studied so high, like 4 years of special studies from another another monastery and temples before, where you have no prerequisites and have not studied before. Even though he has not have um, a formal study, but Thầy Đắc Thành, whatever he was able to study, he went very thorough with it. When he looked through the syllabus of a course, he was able to see whether this a good direction for study, and he knew enough the value of this course to be able to drag me along with him and try and get ourselves into that program. That's the first that I recognized in my friend interacting with him. He was very kind, very gentle, very friendly. A bit of more gentle, more feminine virtues and qualities than most men and monk. So some of the things he doesn't think that it's necessary. He doesn't think he needs to teach anyone anything. He doesn't need to study enough to go up a grade. Or to show how much he knows. This goes against a lot of the norm of a person. Like most people would like to prove how much we have learned, how much we know. But our Thầy Giác Thành, he actually he interact with everybody, with even though whether it's a novice who just came in, or with the interaction with everyone, it's the same. Very helpful and very gentle. He never puts himself as a position of a high monk at all. Even though he is worthy of the position of a high teacher, but he connect with the novices and lay friends as if they're friends of his. That interaction, very close and friendly, very informal. And because of that, many people tend to overstep and doesn't show their proper respect to him. Even though they show a little have that disrespectful kind of mindset, because he is so informal, he doesn't reprimand them for that either. And he doesn't use his high position to 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 say any words that would hurt or be hurtful to anyone. And it's not just with among monastics, but also with lay friends and people who come from Canada, from a long place, from Vietnam, many different countries. When we on the night that he passed away, many people who came from Canada. His name is Trân Minh Giới, or I remember, came. He was in his 70s or 80s when he came, and he was way like in the east of Canada, east coast of Canada. He had to come to. I have not met any high monk who interact with us lay disciples who is so respectful to us and so simple and so like we are equals and very humble. So I couldn't catch whether who wrote the poem to whom between this OI member, elderly OI member from East Coast. Oh, uh, Thầy Giác Tràng actually stayed at his house in at this layperson's house in Canada when he was ill. He was tired, but he was on either on a bed or on a hammock, looking out at a very scenic view. Oh, and so it was the OI member who wrote the poem. So it's this high monk. He doesn't boast what he knows or his position or his fame or his reputation, but it seemed like when he came back and visit me after having been in America for a few years. It's very simple, very humble monk, and you can't tell from talking with him or looking at him that he is a high monk with so deep understanding of the teachings as well of life experience. So hidden behind the essence of a person, it's the gentleness, kindness, but there is a strong, very solid, steel solid strength of a warrior who of a warrior who would who's committed to go fulfill his path or his mission. So, the fear of birth and death, and our energy of practice and our understanding of the teachings is low, then we will the fear birth and death would actually kind of like a noose around our neck through our whole life. The more we are fearful and that worry in our mind, then when we and that we would that fear and that worry actually will spill out through our interaction with other people, our relationship with other people. But Thầy Giác Thanh, has never seeped through his interaction with throughout his life, whether it's lay friends or monastics, and throughout, even though whether it's during favorable times or difficult situations, like when he was on the sea, a boat on the sea to escaping Vietnam. So, so many of his fellow monks actually died either as because of the the war, the battles, being caught in between, and also the difficulty of young men when there's different ideologies that kind of push the passion of young men to take care of their country, of their family, etc. Now, this is a poem that he wrote, a 17-year-old poet. This is, I guess, his very first poem. So try to see if you can get a hand on a copy of his poem, his book of poems. My homeland, nights, sleepless nights. to be the difficulties stomping on us in our mind and our hearts, like it's like a monster that is like going into politics. There's monsters everywhere, and there's so little humanity when you go into the politics of wars, and this. So this is a poem. Not only did it show the the passion and the thinking of a 17-year-old young man, and of he, they were drafting young. They were drafting even monks and young men into into the war, into the different armies, and he was gonna. He was talking about someone who chopped off his left hand to oppose the you to oppose the fact that young men were being drafted for the different armies, and said, "Why? How you're able to do that?" And he said, "You only need right, because I'm right-handed. I just need my right hand to use a pen to be able to raise the voices of people who can't." So I don't know. I don't know which monk he was talking about, but so during these late 70s, early 80s, that many boats people just leaving the shores because it was so difficult seeing our friends and family members dying between the battles, and with the hardship of the country after 75 of Vietnam losing the war. The So in his trip, his journey to escape Vietnam on boats, he actually the boat actually sunk, and there, luckily for him, there was someone was able to swim or stay afloated and kept him afloated until they were picked up by a bigger boat or a bigger ship. So he was fearless even when he was young. As a young man, that's another essence that I picked up, that it's hidden within his poems. It's his fearlessness. The third point that I'd like to share with you is his ability uh, to understand the teachings, the Buddhist teachings, very thoroughly and very deeply. Um, he Sorry, there's a delay between. I'm hearing like double here, so it's hard to translate. So, so anyone who studies anything, there you can sense. It's not conscious, but a lot of it's sometimes it's most of the time it's unconscious that we still want to show how much we learn, but I. Thầy Giác Thành, this is something I've noticed, but he has also he's hidden his another talent, but his handwriting and his calligraphy is it's there, but he has not expressed it or cultivated it. He didn't want to use that as boasting or to show out to the world. But luckily for us in this poem, there is one poem that is printed in his own handwriting. So, for in comparison, I cannot. I, I'm like a teen in elementary school level versus Tayak Tang in all aspects of like poems with teachings of the Buddha and the sutras, etc., and also worldly titles and publications. He also researched and read and studied. And it's not just it's many different countries and different languages. Like he studied Russian literature as well. And like rare publications. Like he listed a title of a the northern poets. It's not really available for those who in the southern, but he somehow found a copy. Because a lot of the essence or the publications of poems of knowledge in the north, they kept it in the north of Vietnam. They were not allowed those in the south to be aware of or to learn. But somehow he was able to find copies and studied. So, and when he studies the Mahas sutras that he studied was very thorough, and it was easy for him with those sutras. And you can actually hear or pick up on that in a few of his poems. So he's giving an example of this one. He's extracted from that poem before, but I don't remember. So he's looking at his see if he can find it on the page. Something about water flowing upstream or downstream. 91. So a quick insight. That would just a fleeting insight. It would strong enough to tumble a whole wall of perceptions and notions or something like that. And in there are moments because due to our meditation that you can only in the blink of an eye a very a blink of an eye that you can it could burn up of all your suffering, all love, hate, everything, or all difficulties, afflictions that you have within. If that in that instant you're able to be there and to receive it. I asked him before which poem is the one that you liked, your agreed most, that is your favorite. There's many. He said he wrote many poems like looking at a maple leaf or fresh snow or even as his own urine in a bottle. But he seems to like this one. That's the instant blink of an eye to sense and be able to capture a fleeting insight that burns up all obstacles that is still in his heart, his mind, and his whole essence. As you can see from his first poem, and when he was 17, to now this one that I shared, that it's in 91, many decades later, that he didn't, he could have, but he didn't. In Put his time into share more of his poems, or write more poems that would benefit us if it was published. So, so he's sharing about the time that when because he had, believe he had late stage diabetes, so he had a dialysis machine that it would he needs like at least 9 hours to filter his blood, and so he had to 12 hours now. They said to oh, not his blood, sorry, his his urine, and Phước Tịnh had to slip in and out just to make sure that he is still breathing and alive, because I wasn't sure, because he lied, he was so weak that he can't hear his breathing. The machine was louder than him. And he every time I tried to slip in to not wake him up, he said, "Don't worry, come on in. I'm still alive. You don't need to be so quiet as a mouse." Our, I so the the hut that was thầy Giác Thanh shared that he remembered his hut is Phu Văn, is the a cloud that is a cloud covered hermitage. Is He said our a monastic's life is so it's so fleeting, like a cloud that it's floating in the sky. So if possible, if in the stupa that is that will be built for me, please put the name Phu Văn on it for me, to remind all of us that our life as a practitioner is it's fleeting, just like a cloud, because so all we could do is interact, so be beautiful and friendly and kind to each other. It would not actually leave much imprint, like a cloud doesn't leave an imprint on the sky once it dissipates or floats to another space. So we've had the luck to interact with each other, to meet each other through many difficulties. We first met when we were teens, and our difficulties in the 70s, and through the time of being refugees, etc. There's nothing. I'm ready to go to in this month. He shared with thầy Phước Tịnh here. When I heard it, I was I was worried, but don't worry about me. Nobody knows me, yourself as me. So so it's only another a few days after he shared that it's My return flight was like something on the 20th, but he left before I was able to return by 10 days. I think within the life of that, no one knew Thầy enough that I was able to write his style, his life history, uh, and I've written this, and I like to extract it to share with you. He shared with me back in 1975, though all the monastics in all the temples and to their own root temple to become farmers. They because they have to. It was harsh time, weather, very hot. So they have to. The land was rock. It's just full rocks, and they to be able to have anything to eat, you'd have to till the land to grow anything you can grow, and so and they were so tired doing tilling the rocky land that they leaned on each other to. That they had to lean on each other to give each other support to finish their work, and said not so as a hero, a warrior of the practice. Not don't don't whether don't think that your time or your life is just tilling and toiling with the soil like this to have some food to eat. You need to also remember to continue your practice and your studies to go further in your practice. So don't lose yourself in even through hardships like this. So from when I heard that, when someone, one of the monastic Western monastic brother came in and talked with me, saying he was able to read this phrase, this teaching in English, and it touched him quite a bit. He said you need to be able to go through and thoroughly understand the no birth, no death teachings, and not be caught up too much with the tilling and toiling to get to have something to eat, and with the hardship that the physical hardship we might have to go through. Of course, there are nights where I was reading through, studying sutras. I have a picture of Thầy Pháp Đề, but I don't have a picture of Thầy Giác Thanh. But he didn't leave behind much. And again, people who passed, the sands of time would start fading, making our memory fade away, and most of the time we would be only be remembered by our loved ones and people who really interact with us a lot. But even with that, it's a lot would be faded through the sands of time. So again, he left with us the image of the floating cloud, Phu Vân, that so it depends on the lifespan of that cloud, but know and remember the deeper level. that the cloud also returns to water, and live in such a way with each other that is skillful and gentle, and that what we leave behind is something beautiful. Thank you. Good luck trying to get a copy of this book of poems.